Eubanks, and I am the Central California Outreach Manager here at the Small Business Majority. I will be moderating today's webinar as well as covering updates during the later half of the webinar. A couple of things of housekeeping items before we jump into the presentation. We will cover lots of information in this hour, and there are a few guest speakers, and I want to be able to answer as many questions as possible. So please submit your questions by typing them into the question tab in the right-hand corner of your screen at any time during the presentation. You can also upvote those questions that apply to you, and we'll try to answer as many of these as possible at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the slides we'll cover will be shared when the webinar concludes, along with a link to the recording. So, as cases of COVID-19 continue to rise through the country, so does its impact on our economy. We recognize during this time, small business owners and their employees may be negatively impacted. To that end, our lineup of speakers will address your questions about those resources your small businesses may be able to benefit from. First, we're going to have Xiomara Pena, who is our Director of Operations here in California. And she's going to actually go over what exactly including the CARE Act for small business owners. And then we'll hear from Kurt Clark, who is the Executive Director for the Central California Small Business Development Center Network. He's going to be discussing what resources you can tap into the SBDC, as well as going over an overview of some of the other items that are available to you through the SBDC. And after that, we'll hear from Joe Salas, a loan officer with CDC Small Business Finance, which recently announced a new COVID-19 working capital and microloan program for businesses impacted because of COVID-19. Lastly, I'll share what resources our organization has for all of you and discuss our online platform, venturize.org. Then we'll move into a Q&A section. With that, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Director of Operations here in California, Ms. Xiomara Pena.
Hi, and good afternoon to everyone joining us today. As you all know, this is a very challenging time for small businesses here in California, and the Central California region in particular is seeing a devastating impact around what is happening at the federal level and at the state level, all the way down to our local economy, impacting our local economy. And so, as you may know, there have been several different developments and recommendations that have been made to support small businesses in this time. At the first phase of the stimulus package that was passed passed by President Trump and signed. This was the Corona Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act. This provided $8.3 billion in emergency funding for federal agencies to respond to the coronavirus outbreak. It also did something which enabled the Small Business Administration, or the SBA, to make an estimated $7 billion in low-cost loans to affected small businesses. The second phase was the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which essentially created an Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act and Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, which the Secretary of Labor can exempt businesses with fewer than 50 employees from the Emergency Family and Medical Leave expansions requirements. But I imagine that you all are here to learn about the most recent package, which was Phase 3, or the CARES Act, which was passed and signed, included over 800 pages in the stimulus package, $2 trillion, $349 billion in loan guarantees through this Paycheck Protection Program, which you'll get a chance to learn more about from one of our speakers, which does include loan forgiveness to qualifying businesses. Really important to note because the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, the EIDL loan, is a wonderful vehicle for small businesses that are looking to rebuild their business after this, right, or are experiencing some hardship now. However, we also recognize that small business owners need immediate support, and so this Paycheck Protection Program was a vehicle that was created as part of this stimulus package. It also, as you can see there, appropriated $10 billion for the economic injury disaster loans, which does now include a loan advance of up to $10,000. And you'll get a chance again to hear a little bit more about that loan advance and the EIDL loan application process. It also appropriated $17 billion to provide 6 months of forbearance for current SBA loans, and allocated $240 million for small business development centers, which do include women's business centers and other technical assistance providers. It's important to note because there's a ton of resources and information that we're going to be covering today, and we're lucky to have a Small Business Development Center Network representative here, the executive director, who's going to be now leading us into the next part of the presentation, discussing what services they are also offering that can help guide you through this process, because we want business owners to know there is a support network of technical assistance and you don't have to go at it alone. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Joy to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Zio. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over now to Kirk Clark, who is the Executive Director of the Central California Small Business Development Center Network. And he's going to discuss what resources you can tap into from the SBDC, as well as giving an overview of both the PPP program, or the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL loan. And I'll go ahead and give it to Clark.
Thank you, Joy. And Ziamara, thank you for that great introduction. And there's a lot of information. I'm going to try to go through it fairly quickly, so there'll be plenty of time for answering questions. And I assume that Joy will probably do a Q&A session when we get to the end. So SBDCs, some of you may not be familiar with it. We're a federally funded program whose sole purpose is to assist people start and grow business. So during this incredibly difficult time, SBDC is just getting overwhelmed with contacts from small business, requests for assistance to, how do I deal with COVID, to how do I get one of these loans, how do I survive, all kinds of questions. So we're doing everything we can. We're ramping up very rapidly across Central California, which is 14 counties, south of San Joaquin County all the way down to Kern County. We have about 150 consultants. We have 6 service centers located in the larger cities, but they also provide services all throughout the 14 counties. So if you need free confidential assistance to kind of figure things out, we'd like you to contact us and we'll get you signed up and get you assigned to a consultant. So next slide. I don't know if I have control. Are you controlling it, Joy?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, good. So that's kind of what we do. And so we're going to talk about, or I am going to talk about kind of 3 key things, basically what the funding options, what's referred to as EIDL, the EIDL program, and the PPP Paycheck Protection Program. And a little bit about some employee information. I'm not comfortable to get too deep into it because then it starts getting into HR and legal issues, but we'll give you just a real quick overview. And then what is, in my opinion, the most important thing once we get past crisis, and that is how do you prepare to reopen your business? So a couple of things to consider before we get into the funding. There are lots and lots of people impacted at different levels, including landlords. Landlords know that if their businesses go out of business, their tenants, then they're going to have vacancies, and that could last for a long time. So many landlords are being very flexible right now. So if you have rent or lease payment to make, please reach out to your landlord, work with them, encourage them to either give you a referral or reduction, renegotiate terms. This is the time to be asking right now. If you have an existing SBA loan, there is a loan forgiveness program that was funded through the CARES Act. We'll talk just a little bit. I have one slide on that coming up. But also go back to, if you have a conventional loan, go back to your bank. Talk about loan deferrals, talk about renegotiation. The bottom line is you need your business to survive. Also check with your insurance carrier. Do you have business discontinuation insurance? Do you have other forms of insurance coverage that you were paying for that you're entitled to receive the benefit from? Don't be bashful about asking your insurance carrier, what does my policy provide me? And so basically we're looking at 4 different tranches of funding that business should be considering depending upon their circumstance and their eligibility. We're going to spend quite a bit of time in the next 10, 15 minutes covering stimulus, SBA loans, primarily the 3 key programs, the EIDL, the PPP, and the debt relief. We're going to talk a little bit about traditional and local government loans. The state is catching up. It takes a little bit longer than the federal government, but the state will be offering some loan guarantee programs. There are lots of things being discussed right now all across the state, private sector as well as public governmental programs that are being debated. So just keep your ears open. We try to keep information on our website current every day, sometimes multiple times a day. We're updating it. So stay plugged into your trusted source of information, because local government loans are coming at some point and other types of assistance. Consider crowdfunding and equity types loans. This, sometimes is a lot of effort for maybe little payoff. But if you're working with a consultant or you're working with a trusted advisor, whether or not it's SBDC, at least consider looking at crowdfunding and equity funding sources. And then the last is credit cards. There are still lots of banks that are offering 0 interest credit cards short term. That not something I normally recommend for businesses, but for short-term debt, right now it's about survival, it's about cash flow, it's about getting money that you can use to pay your bills and stay current and to survive until everything is post-COVID. So let's look at the 3 key programs that are being offered by the federal government. The EIDL program. The good thing about EIDL is it was an existing program, so it's a little bit easier to ramp up. But having said that, there are literally tens of millions of applications going into the SBA, and it has completely overwhelmed their capacity to absorb that many applications. So the first thing I am telling our clients is please be patient. I know this is a difficult thing to hear when you're not sure what's going to happen next week, let alone tomorrow. And so it's just scary. And so you want answers and you want responses, and the SBA Office of Disaster Assistance, which manages the EIDL program, is just overwhelmed. So one thing that we've been told, and again, it changes from day to day, but I'm trying to give you the latest, best information that I have, is if you applied or someone applied for an EIDL loan prior to March 30th, they do need to reapply using the new forms that are available on the website. The good news is the new forms are super easy, much easier than the previous forms. And the only way to get to the up to 10K advance is to use the new form. So if you want the 10K immediate payout, well, it's not really immediate, but you've probably heard the president touted it, and many elected officials say that the money would be out in 3 days. We have lots of clients that applied the same day, which was the 30th, and still haven't gotten their money. So we're hearing from SBA that they're trying to catch up, and that it's typically about 10 working days now to get the advance. So hopefully that speeds up here as they catch up. Other than that, if you don't get a response from the ODA, Office of Disaster Assistance, after you submit your new application with the new forms, typically within 3 days, then you need to get on the phone, even though it's frustrating and it might take an hour or longer, calling that 1-800 number to find out what happened to your application. There really isn't a perfect system. If you've heard back from them, typically SBA is saying within 72 hours, they're trying to get an email out confirming receipt of your application. And I've heard from some clients they've received that email within 24 hours. That email is critically important because it will have your case number on it. And that number is what you're going to reference when you communicate with SBA and when they communicate with you. If someone sends you an email saying they're from the SBA and they want your Social Security number, don't give it to them. Obviously, there's a lot of scams going on right now. So be very, very cautious, skeptical about any inbound communication from anybody. And if it's SBA, they're going to use your case number. I know there's going to be a lot of questions on the EIDL coming in, but I want to switch, if that's okay, Joy, just kind of keep through the slides and then we'll answer questions later.
Sure.
No, back up. Sorry.
Oh.
If you can back up one slide. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead and go. No, you're fine. Go forward 2. One more. Yeah, perfect. So just a real basic view of EIDL. Many of you have already seen this information already because it's been out for about two plus weeks. The maximum injury or economic injury disaster loan is $2 million. Very few businesses are going to get that. They're trying to spread money as much as possible, and you really have to justify the amount of injury that you actually sustained due to COVID. So from what we're hearing, most of the COVID loans are going to be under $250,000, and probably most of those under $100,000. 3.75, decent interest rate, up to 30 years. So the actual payment is really low. Next slide. So there's just real quick, what does it require? 25,000 loans of 25,000 or more will require collateral if it's available. SBA saying if no collateral is available, it will not prevent the loan from going forward if the borrower or the applicant is otherwise qualified. So collateral is required if it's available. If it's not available, they will still look at providing more than 25,000. Credit score is still important. We're hearing unofficially that the credit score we're looking for is about 650. In some situations, slightly less than that. Use of funds can basically be used as working capital for any type of legitimate business use, including paying debts, purchasing inventory. You could use it for paying employees, but if you're going to apply for a PPP, then you probably don't want to use your EIDL for that. You'd rather use the forgivable funds, hopefully from a PPP. You'll need to provide interim 2019 P&L or interim financials and tax returns for the last 2 years. Who's eligible? Basically any business except large businesses, including nonprofits. And next slide. So there's just quick overview. That's the new website, covid19relief.sba.gov / with the pound symbol. There is what's called Form 5. That is for all businesses except sole proprietor, which will use Form 5C. And when you check what you are on the application, I believe it will give you the option between the two. Form P19 is all the supporting information. That's, again, a very simple form to fill out. And then if you want the advance, you have to check the box at the end of the application stating that you want up to 10K advance. And once they say just get those forms in, and then you should get an acknowledgement that it was received. They will start reviewing your application, and then if you're moving forward in the approval process, you will be asked for additional information. So, and there it says in the red box, if you submitted before March 30th, please resubmit using the new application form. Next. Quick calculation just to give you a rough idea of what your payment might be. A loan of $25,000 is $116 a month. $50,000 is $232 a month. There is no prepayment penalty. So if you were to get your EIDL loan and you decide like 2 months later, I don't need it, business is coming back, I really don't need this, you pay it off. There is an 11-month deferral, so you start your payments on the 12th month, and the interest does accrue from the date that the loan was originated. So even if you decide later on, you got $50,000, you decide you don't need that, you can pay it back and then just pay the interest that's accrued over that time period. Next. PPP program is up to 10 million, but again, I doubt many businesses are going to get that much. Again, they're trying to spread it. I did hear the president's news conference today. The president has asked congressional leaders to approve an additional $250 billion for the PPP program. And his expectation is that that will get passed this week. He has asked Congress to get it passed and to his desk by Friday because the money is going out extremely fast. As of today, there were 250,000 approved applications for PPP, and that totaled $70 billion already since Friday. There's only a 1% interest rate on any amount that is carried forward as a loan, but that loan will have to be paid in 2 years. No fees, no prepayment penalty, no personal guarantees or collateral on the PPP. Keep in mind, the purpose of the PPP program is to for the business to keep employees employed. So there's been a lot of misinformation about this. It's not intended to be a working capital loan. And we'll go through a quick calculation. I think it's the next slide, but we'll go through that in a second. And I think you'll see, if you're not already clear on how this works, I think it'll become a little more clear. But this is not meant to be a working capital loan. This is meant to be used to keep your employees working, so you have to go on unemployment, so that when things clear up, hopefully in a couple months, then you'll be able to reopen your business and you won't have to be hiring while you're trying to find customers. Again, the eligibility, very similar to the EIDL. The big difference here is that churches are now included in the PPP and faith-based organizations. You do have to fill out a good faith certification. That's just an SBA form, basically says you're a person of good character, you're not in jail, et cetera, and that what information you've submitted, you promise is true and correct. And that reduces the liability of the bank, since the bank is making the loan, not the SBA on the PPP. So how much can you borrow? The maximum you can borrow is 2.5 times the average payroll, the average monthly payroll, typically over the last year. So the SBA prefers that you look at 2019, look at what's on your tax return or what's on your financial statement, look at the payroll costs. This includes all payroll costs associated, and then 2.5 times that amount. And what's included right there, what's included in payroll costs gives you a pretty good allowance. The only thing basically that's not included is the federal portion or the employer's portion of federal payroll taxes. So that would be Social Security and SSI, but that's on the form when you fill it out. So next slide. So just as an example, if the small business had payroll of 120,000 in 2019, they would have an average monthly payroll of 10,000. The maximum PPP loan they could apply for is 25,000, 2.5 times their average monthly payroll. Simple, easy calculation. Now here's the good part. If that funding is used to keep people employed, to keep your employees on the payroll, up to 100% of that can be forgiven. So basically it gets paid off by the government, effectively being a grant. So what the government wants is small businesses to keep people employed and to keep yourself ready to go back to work, open your doors. So one of the questions and one of the misunderstandings is the state says that I'm a non-essential business, therefore my employees have to stay home. How can I pay my employees if they're at home? Well, that's the whole point. The PPP is intended to do just that. Pay your employees to stay home. If you're an essential business, one that the state says you can remain open, well, then obviously you can ask your employees to come to work if you're paying them. The point is that we don't want dislocated employees if possible, or minimize the amount of people that are going to be leaving your employment permanently or being unemployed long term. So this is meant to soften the impact of unemployment across the country and hopefully make it quicker for you to return to normal operations. And yes, there's tons of questions on that, including where can I get one of these? They have to come through banks that are 7A, approved to do 7A loans, and a lot of banks are only accepting applications from their current customers. That's been a big problem. And we'll answer questions later. I think we're getting close to the end. Again, SBA approved. Here's the debt relief program. This is really important for those small businesses that had an SBA loan. This applies to 7A, 504, and microloans that were issued before September 27th, 2020. That means if you get a new loan, SBA 7A, 504, or a microloan, this does not include EIDL or PPP loans, you are allowed to get 6 months of payments paid by the government. So basically, they're going to pay 6 months for you. And you don't have to apply. It's automatic. If you already have an existing loan, then your lender should be communicating with you that the government is going to pay 6 months of payments for you. Next. This is the one that I'm probably the most uncomfortable getting too deep into because I don't feel I have the qualifications to get into HR and legal issues, but this slide will be made available to you. I don't want to put a lot of time into it. There are lots of really good HR websites that are providing lots of information about the federal as well as the state employee information. But yeah, there's a lot of assistance right now for people that are unemployed. So this is, to me, is what I think is most important. If we can get past the health crisis and get past all the angst of, what's going to happen, I think, in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, every business should be thinking about what is best for me to prepare to reopen. One of the things that we can almost guarantee is the world will be different. Your customers will be different. They will be behaving different than they were 2 months ago, 3 months ago. The reality is there will be a huge amount of pent-up demand. Everything from getting your haircut, getting your car serviced, to buying clothes, huge pent-up demand because people have been in their house for, some cases 2 months, and they haven't been spending a lot of money and they want to get out. So be ready for the new customers that will be coming into your business. But it is going to be a new normal, and customers will have new behaviors. That's next slide. And so one of the things, this is the last slide, one of the things that the SBDC is we really, really are trying to provide accurate information. It's a huge amount of information coming at us from all different directions. Some of it's accurate, some of it's old, some of it's just blatantly wrong, some of it's a scam. And we have to be on guard, trust your source or know your trusted source. We're here to answer your questions. We have professional consultants. We do not charge for consulting. It's confidential. It's a federal program, so your information is safe with us. Super easy to sign up. And again, we have about 150 or so consultants across our 14 counties. And we're here, whether it's short-term questions or long-term relationship, to help you through the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, the next couple of years. That's our contact info. Thank you for listening. And whenever, Joy, I'm happy to take questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kurt. And just to reiterate how important SBDC is, and I'm probably one of their biggest cheerleaders simply because I've loved them forever, and they're the experts to a lot of the information that's out there. If you have a small business and you're looking to need that guidance, the SBDC is the go-to for that. Thank you so much, Kurt, again. I really appreciate it. So now we're going to move on to the CDC Small Business Finance. Our loan officer, Joe Salas, with CDC Small Business Finance, which recently announced a new COVID-19 working capital and micro loan program for businesses impacted because of COVID-19. And Joe, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you, Joy, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. My name is Joe Salas. I am a loan officer with CDC Small Business Finance. Before we begin, it's important to know that CDC Small Business Finance only offers loans in California, Arizona, Nevada. We previously talked about the national program, so I'll go ahead and forward that link, forward the page. Thank you. What is CDC? CDC stands for Certified Development Company. CDCs are certified by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, to administer SBA 504 loans and Community Advantage loans. SBA 504 loans are primarily for commercial real estate. CDCs are private and nonprofit entities with the mission to provide business financing for those who aren't quite strong enough for traditional financing. And there are over 260 CDCs throughout the country. So I'm going to briefly go over the program in which we are offering currently at this time. We were offering a microloan program, but we have since run out of funds for that particular program. We are trying to get state government guarantee to give us additional funds so we can bring that program back. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about our Community Advantage Emergency Relief Program. Next page. So our COVID-19 Working Capital Loan Program is important to note that this is offered by CDC Small Business Finance. Although it is SBA government guaranteed by the government, we have nothing to do with SBA or federal financing for this particular product. The max loan amount is $150,000 or last year's total sales, whichever is smaller. So if you had if your company did $100,000 in revenues last year, the max you'd be able to apply for is $100,000. These loans are offered for working capital only. Minimum credit score of 680, BK of at least 3 years old, and we ask that you have no open liens or judgments. This particular rate is prime plus 2.75 to prime plus 4.75. Currently, prime is at 3.25, so you'll be anywhere between 6 and 8%. Terms are 7 to 10 years. Next slide. So if you are interested in this particular loan program, this is the criteria in which I would need to get from you. We would need 3 months of current bank statements. We'd need the last 3 years of your business tax returns, your most recent personal tax return, the CDC COVID-19 loan application, personal financial statement, and debt schedule. And we need a brief written explanation of how your business has been impacted by COVID-19. If you are interested in this particular program, you can contact me by my email, which is jsalas@cdcloans.com. And you can also find additional information on our website, which is cdcloans.com. And that's pretty much all I have, Joy, and I'll answer any questions at the end of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe, for being with us today. Really appreciate it. Lastly, I'm going to share what resources our organization has for you all and discuss our online platform, Venturize. And after that, we'll go into Q&A. So some of the resources and tools that we have is our online resource hub that we've been collectively gathering things for the last, the last month now on everything COVID related for small businesses. There's resources, links to upcoming webinars, policy updates surrounding the COVID-19 outbreak on our website. And again, these updates are almost daily because the information is going so fast. Venturize is our online resource hub to find, info on state and local emergency relief funds. It's a free online resource hub for small business owners like you who need help accessing tools and resources to grow their business. Venturize offers unbiased information about small business loans, retirement, and healthcare. And that's venturize.org. Match Finder for California small businesses is a short set of questions We'll connect small businesses to lenders that prioritize supporting small businesses and offer more affordable terms than many traditional financial institutions. All lenders are long-standing partners who share our mission to ensure small businesses get affordable, responsible sources of capital to start, grow, and sustain their enterprises. And that is matchfinder.venturize.org, and we can help you guys find the right partner for you. We also partner with a wealth of local nonprofit business assistance organizations who can help with other business issues during this time. Visit the Venturize homepage and select your state to find providers near you, including the entire network of small business development centers. Our partners, Pacific Community Ventures, is offering free remote business assistance on any topic, and that's www.businessadvising.org. Community Reinvestment Fund, a national CDFI, offers connecttocapital.com, another CDFI matching tool. And if you decide that you want to become a small business spokesperson, we're dedicated to ensuring that lawmakers and the media hear from real small business owners about how they're being impacted by COVID-19. Share your story and how COVID-19 has impacted your business by filling out our online form. Again, getting to the heart of the business world and who out there is being affected is what we're trying to do, and make sure that that voice is heard. So if you want to stay in touch, our online community forum is community.smallbusinessmajority.org. Join our mailing list, and that's go.smallbusinessmajority.org. And Small Business Majority, our website, www.smallbusinessmajority.org. And of course, our Venturize Access to Capital Resource Portal is www.venturize.org access-capital. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Small Business Majority on Instagram. Any questions and comments you have, feel free to give me a call. My name is Joy Eubanks. I'm the Central California Outreach Manager. My email is jubanks@smallbusinessmajority.org. And again, there's daily updates for small business at smallbusinessmajority.org/COVID-19 daily updates for small business. And now we'll go ahead and get into some questions. And I know that they had, there was a couple. And give me a minute. Looks like we have a lot of questions coming in. Give me a second to kind of sort through. One of the questions was, can I apply for the PPP with multiple lenders? Basically trying to go with the lender that will get it through the fastest. So I know a lot of lenders are only wanting to use their own clientele. I know, Kurt, you spoke about that earlier. And right now, I'm not sure if applying with multiple lenders would necessarily be things going to hit your credit each and every time you apply. And you don't necessarily want your credit hit on each time. Joe, as a lender, what would your take on that be? Joe still there?
He's muted.
Oh, Joe?
Yes, I was trying to unmute. Sorry about that.
No.
I do know the answer. Actually, I had a webinar, I believe, earlier today. My days are getting mixed up here. If you do, I think you can apply through multiple lenders, but I believe they take the first one. But you're right. I mean, you wouldn't want to apply to different financial institutions for the reason that each and every time they are going to pull your credit. So it will put a ding on your credit.
And I can just add from what I've heard is they're only going to allow one PPP loan. So if you accept one, you also certify that you haven't accepted one previously, which the government does not take kindly to people who provide untruthful information.
Thank you. And we have another question. Let's see. If I am a sole prop and have no employees, just myself, I take an owner's draw for PPP loan. What paperwork do I submit my Schedule C from my 2019 taxes? So I think the question is what kind of paperwork, if they're a sole prop and they want to do the PPP loan.
My understanding is the bank is going to determine the exact information they're going to require to complete the application. Sole proprietors can apply, self-employed persons can apply, and the calculation is, again, what they paid themselves up to $100,000 times 2.5, which I believe at a maximum is $18,333.
Joe, are CDC loans available for the cannabis businesses?
Unfortunately, at this time, it's a no. Our loans are SBA guaranteed through the federal government, and federally, cannabis is not legalized. So unfortunately, it's a no at this time.
And I'm actually getting live updates here. So I guess sole props will be able to apply on April 10th. Hopefully we'll get more guidance from SBA on how to calculate that soon. So on April the 10th, sole props will be able to apply for the PPP. If you are a sole prop for the PPP, what would that be your gross earnings? I have a contractor, so I'm not sure how to calculate. So
that I don't know.
Yeah, so if you are a sole prop for the PPP, would that be gross earnings? I also have a contractor, so I'm not sure how to calculate.
Well, I know for sure the contractor, any payments made, payroll or otherwise, to sole prop or contractor cannot be included in the calculation for payroll. The other question is, I'm just going to have to guess, and I would say it's probably net earnings that you paid yourself. But again, the bank is going to have the calculation on their own internal forms that will help determine the maximum amount that a person could apply for.
So what I'm seeing is this, it's yes, net earnings. So Kurt, you're correct.
Yep, thank you. Lucky guess.
So a little bit of clarification. Once I have the application number for EIDL, do I need to submit documents you mentioned before the SBA contacts me?
Just so I answer correctly, repeat the question again. I'm sorry.
No problem. So once the application number, they've gotten the application number for the EIDL, do they need to submit documents mentioned before SBA contacts me? So I guess the backup information, their loan package, basically, before the SBA contacts them.
The first part of the question assumes, at least to me, implies that they did get communication from SBA that their loan was, or their EIDL was received, and they should get communication when appropriate as to exactly what the ODA, Office of Disaster Assistance, needs to complete the review. So I would say do not send anything until it's requested.
Could the PPP loan originate on the day of reopening my business for maximum loan forgiveness? I am concerned I won't have enough time to restore employee headcount and pay level before June 30th. So
I read that question. That's a good, interesting question. I think it's going to be determined by when the bank approves it. There may be some wiggle room to negotiate when you want to originate the loan, but probably not much, because again, the purpose of the loan of the PPP is not necessarily for working capital or a direct benefit to the business. It's a mutual benefit to keep the employees working and keep the business cash flow maximized, so minimizing the expenses of the business.
What I'm getting is SBA is still writing all the details on loan forgiveness. So we'll get more info on the calculations. Again, it's changing daily.
True.
So rule of thumb, spend money on employees. So Kurt, again, correct. So can new employees be included in the PPP payroll forgiveness in 2020, or do we have to only issue funds to pre-existing employees for the PPP funds to be forgiven? So that's part one of the question.
So I heard today that SBA, and again, this could not be, or possibly not corroborated, but I heard today that SBA is allowing a business to calculate employees up to February 15th.
Okay.
So that would be one answer. The other is you can get, once you get the PPP loan, you can hire more people to further expense that money out. In other words, they will, in the forgiveness aspects of the loan, it could be new employees.
So with that, the second part of that question, can I issue funds to a 1099 independent contractor and have those be covered by the PPP?
No. Independent contractors are not included.
And I think we've kind of gotten, well, here's one more. I laid off my employee. Should I start paying my employee now or have them wait until they receive the loan from PPP?
Yeah, that's a tough one to answer. That really requires an analysis of the business's available working capital. You know, I would say if the business is at risk of not surviving, in worst case scenarios, they get declined and they have now spent their money and they have to close. You know, we're analyzing the businesses on a case by case basis, and in some cases it's better for the survival of the business to lay off the employees. Unfortunately, the PPP is there to prevent that from happening, but it isn't, you know, the be all end all of the decision the business needs to make.
So in other words, they need to come see their local SBDC.
Well, if they want, we're here to analyze that. Yes, yeah. But there are other good advisors. SCORE, Women's Business Center, Minority Business Development Center. There are lots of good advisory services out there. Many of the funders, the CDFIs and other funders have technical assistance as well.
So another question was, can I apply for the PPP and the EIDL?
Yes, but you can't spend the same money twice, or you can't expense, pay for the same expenses. No commingling of the expenses.
Another question, can undocumented business owners apply for any help?
I don't know the answer to that. Sorry.
I don't know that.
Okay. So most banks have closed their PPP online applications. Do you know if they will reopen for the self-employed and 1099s on April 10th? I think it's by bank. A lot of them are doing it based on their clients. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic situation. Everybody's probably heard that Wells Fargo lent $10 billion in 48 hours roughly, and they closed taking applications. I was told the reason that happened is because the federal government had a cap on the amount of paper they could carry for this program. We were told today that Treasury is looking at purchasing the PPP loans so that Wells Fargo could possibly be able to start lending again.
So I'm getting, again, up-to-date information. Independent contractors can apply for their own PPP loan after April the 10th. And Governor Newsom has a new micro-lending fund rolling out hopefully next week. So undocumented will be able to access that. So again,
okay,
information is changing by the minute, basically.
Yep.
What is the minimum credit score that the two business owners need to have to qualify for PPP?
That is a question I can't answer. That's going to be based on the credit standards of the bank that they're applying to.
Right. From what my understanding was, that no credit score was needed for those, because that's what they're loosening up that one of those requirements. So yeah. I don't think credit is even one of the things right now that's being considered. I'm confused. Does the EIDL PPP also forgive for utilities and rent? So those are two different programs.
Two separate programs. So the EIDL does not have forgiveness. It is a loan, with the exception of the advance. Mm-hmm. And I've told that the up to $10,000 requested in advance will not be required to be paid back. So don't hold me to that, but that's what we've been told. And then the PPP does have up to 100% forgiveness if all of the loan is used within the 8 weeks for eligible purposes, expenses. But as someone mentioned earlier, those rules are still being written, and we don't know exactly how that's going to work, except in theory. And in theory, the business will spend the loan proceeds for eligible purposes, provide the documentation to the bank. The bank will then submit that to SBA, and SBA will pay off the loan.
And just with everyone on the call today, has anyone of the businesses that you guys have talked to, has anyone received the 10,000 advances? Have you guys heard of anyone that's received it yet?
Unfortunately, we had this conversation we had 80 people on a call this morning across our region, that's staff and consultants. And I asked that very question, and I did not get a single yes.
Yeah, that's what we've had a call, and there hasn't been anybody yet that's actually received it. 3 days turnaround is what they said. And I've worked with SBA a long time, and that I'm curious to see that happen. Do you guys have any parting questions, any parting comments, remarks?
Be patient. It is never as simple as, it often appears in the press or when electeds are talking about their programs. There's always additional complications, but these programs are real. They're very valuable. And I think the federal government is willing to put a lot more money if needed. So just keep pushing as best you can, keep calling, keep emailing. We'll do everything we can to help you in that regard. But ultimately, it's up to the individual business to kind of get across the finish line.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank my speakers for coming on today and helping me with this and kind of giving that up-to-date information out. And we hope this was helpful to all of you and understand this is a dynamic issue which can change by the day or even by the hour. And as a precaution, we will be moving all our in-person events to virtual events and invite you to join our newsletter and social media platforms to have up-to-date information on COVID-19 resources for small business owners. And you can find that by visiting our website, www.smallbusinessmajority.org. Please feel free to reach out to us and, of course, use us as a resource. We do want to hear from you because this is what helps us do our jobs in advocating for small businesses and bringing resources helpful to you. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it today for you guys joining in on my class and my webinar. And this is the end of our webinar. Thank you again.